In the midst of the chaos and terror that gripped northern Uganda during the war, there was a small village, a place where hope and love still flickered in the hearts of the young. This is where the story of Akello and Ojok begins, a story of bravery, love, and sacrifice that would echo through the generations. Akello was known in her village for her courage. She had lost her father, mother, and siblings in the war, but she was still a beacon of strength for those who knew her, and everyone looked up to her. But there was one person who saw beyond her bravery, a boy named Ojok. Ojok had always admired Akello, not just for her courage, but for the kindness she showed to everyone around her. He had loved her from afar, but now, with a war threatening to tear their world apart, he knew he couldn't keep his feelings hidden anymore. One night, as the village slept in uneasy silence, Ojok found the courage to speak his heart. He told Akello how much she meant to him, how her strength had given him hope when all seemed lost. Akello listened, her heart touched by his words. She too had grown to care deeply for Ojok, but she was afraid of what the future held for them in this war-torn land. As they spoke, danger crept closer. The war had reached their village and the rebels were closing in. There was no time to waste. The village elders decided that the women and children must flee, while the men would stay behind to defend their home. Ojok was torn. He wanted to stay and fight, but he couldn't bear the thought of Akello facing the dangers of the road alone. In that moment, Ojok made a decision that would change their lives forever. He took Akello's hand and led her away from the village, away from the danger. They ran through the night, the sounds of gunfire and screams fading into the distance. Ojok knew they had to keep moving, but his heart ached for the family and friends they had left behind. For days they hid in the forest, surviving on whatever they could find. The journey was treacherous, but their love gave them the strength to carry on. They knew they had to find safety, not just for themselves, but for the hope of a future together. A future where they could live in peace, free from the horrors of the war. There were moments of near capture when the rebels came too close, but Ojok's knowledge of the land and Akello's quick thinking saved them time and time again. Each close call only strengthened their bond, their love growing deeper with every passing day. They had become each other's reason to survive, a light in the darkness of the war that surrounded them. At long last, they reached a refugee camp, a place where they could find some semblance of safety. But even here, the war was never far away. They heard stories of the villages destroyed, of loved ones lost, and they knew that their own village might never be the same. But they also knew that they had each other, and that was enough. Ojok couldn't rest while others fought to protect what little they had left. He volunteered to join a group of young men who were training to defend the camp. Akello feared for his safety, but she knew that this was something he had to do. She admired his bravery, just as he had admired hers. While Ojok trained, Akello threw herself into helping the wounded, caring for the children, and doing whatever she could to support those around her. But her thoughts were never far from Ojok. She prayed for his safety, knowing that their love was her greatest treasure, one she couldn't bear to lose. The day came when the rebels attacked the camp. It was a fierce battle, and Ojok fought with all his might, determined to protect the people he loved. Akello watched in horror as the fighting raged, her heart in her throat as she searched for Ojok among the chaos. Ojok was wounded, but he refused to fall. He fought on, his strength fueled by his love for Akello. And when the battle was finally won, when the rebels were driven away, it was Ojok who stood tall among the defenders, bloodied but unbroken. When the dust settled, Akello ran to Ojok, her heart overflowing with love and relief. She held him close, knowing that they had both made sacrifices to reach this moment. Their love had carried them through the darkest of times, and now they could finally dream of a future together. As the sun rose over the camp, casting its golden light on the land that had seen so much suffering, Akello and Ojok stood side by side. They had faced the horrors of war and emerged stronger, their love a beacon of hope in a world torn apart by conflict. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but they also knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. In the end, it was not the war that defined them, but the love they shared, a love that had survived against all odds, a love that would endure no matter what the future held. This is the story of Akello and Ojok, a story of bravery, love, and sacrifice that will never be forgotten. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. What would you do in Ojok's situation? Would you run away and rescue the woman you loved and leave your family behind to defend your home? What do you think? Would you do the same if it were you? Please comment below. And before you leave, I would like to share some facts about Uganda with you. This story is centered around a war that raged in Uganda for quite some time. The history of Uganda has been marred by wars, one of which took place for over 20 years in Northern Uganda. This war began in 1986 when the president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, took over. This war was led by a lady called Alice Lakwena. And when she was defeated, it was taken over by a man called Joseph Kony. And their rebel group was called Lord's Resistance Army. This group terrorized the citizens of Northern Uganda for over 20 years, as I mentioned before, killing thousands of people and displacing millions of others. To date, there is relative peace in Northern Uganda, though the Lord's Resistance Army has been pushed out of Uganda and into Congo and Southern Sudan. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, and see you in the next video.